The Fraser Institute has published a report detailing how the lack of pipeline capacity is impacting the Canadian economy. The report pinpoints Canada's oil production at 3.2 million barrels a day, an amount that's already straining current pipeline capacity. By 2030, that's expected to more than double to at least 6.7 million. Now, the capacity situation is also limiting Canada's ability to reach world markets, forcing us to sell mostly to the United States at a greatly discounted rate. And that rate is costing the country's economy more than $15 billion a year. That's according to the report. So joining us for analysis is Dr. Kenneth Green. He's the Senior Director at the Center for Natural Resources at the Fraser Institute. He helped write that report and he joins us from Calgary. So Doctor, what is safer, oil by rail or pipeline?
Well, that's the big question, right? Because the oil is going to move. It's not going to stay in the ground. It's going to move to markets in North America as well as overseas. And what you look at, when you look at the difference in safety, pipelines are safer than rail or truck.
Okay, so CN Rail is considering shipping bitumen, for instance, from Alberta to the BC coast. What do you make of that?
Well, Canada has as good a rail safety a reputation as anyone. It's very much as safe as the United States. The oil, as I said, the oil is going to move. The bitumen is not going to stay in the ground, despite the environmentalists' best wishes. The value represented by the bitumen means it's going to come to market, and that's going to happen whether it's by pipeline, by rail, or by truck, or by barge. It's going to move. The only question is which risks are we willing to accept and which costs are we willing to accept in dealing with those risks.
Fair enough. On the cost side of things, though, we'd get a better price, if you will, for our oil prices if we get it to the market faster. Isn't that true? And isn't that the focus of your report?
Yes, if we get it not to the market faster, but if we get it to the world market without it being bottlenecked in the United States, we would get a higher price for the oil. And that would mean more revenue for Canada and for the companies as well as the government, as well as the retirement funds and everyone who's invested in the oil sands in Alberta.
Okay, let's go through your report in a little bit more detail, because you indicate that between the 2008 to 10 period, Canadian Select oil was at a discount of about $14. What's happening now?
Well, the discount changes really almost daily. The discount has shrunk to a certain extent. It's grown in the interim. Even just since we drafted the report, the discount has grown and shrunk. So I can't tell you exactly what the discount is today. I haven't looked it up, but it's a significant discount from the price we would get if we were selling at world oil prices. Yeah. And we're not.
Yeah, exactly. And what? Give me some numbers. What is the economic impact, and how did you arrive at that?
Well, the estimates are that Canada is losing $17 billion a year right now, or at the time we drafted the report, naturally, based on the discount. And that's about 6% of Alberta's GDP, to put it in perspective. It's a significant chunk of money that Canada could be realizing if we could bring our oil to market at full price.
Okay. Is it all hinged on this Keystone XL pipeline?
No, it's going to take more than that. In fact, as you said earlier, the oil production is expected to more than double. And to get that to world markets is going to require more than just Keystone. Keystone is important, there's no question about it. But we're going to require more access to both East Coast and West Coast export terminals for Alberta's oil to fully realize the potential of what we can produce.
Even just looking at Keystone, though, are we not competing for space on Keystone? It's one thing to get it across the border, but once it's across the border, there are other resources in the United States that are trying to get into that pipeline, aren't there?
Yes, that's a very big point, which is the U.S. is not the U.S. that used to be. The U.S. used to be, just an endless receiver of Canadian oil, used to take everything we could sell. Now the U.S. is becoming a world producer. It's going to become an export power in about 10 years. And the need for Canadian oil within the U.S. system is reducing. So the importance of finding foreign markets other than the U.S. is growing as an issue for Canada.
Okay, so hence Northern Gateway Pipeline. We've talked about CN's rail's efforts. What about shipping to the east?
Well, it makes perfect sense to ship to the east as well as the west. The Eastern Canada imports oil, and it's hard to understand why you would want that to continue when you have a domestic product that you could move to the east, refine, use, and export. It makes perfect sense. So both directions are important with regard to transport.
Okay. How quickly would that turn things around for Canada on an economic basis? Let's say it takes us 2 years to start shipping to eastern ports, or even in, well, 2 years is probably unrealistic, but let's say 3 years to eastern ports or even the West Coast. Will that impact all of Canada immediately?
Well, I mean, it won't impact all of Canada immediately. It will impact all of Canada. The whole idea that the only benefits come to Alberta is itself a mistaken idea. The benefits of oil export, production and export benefits all of Canada. But though there is a window, I mean, what you're touching on is that, do we have an infinite amount of time to do this? And the answer is probably not. There is a window. At a certain point, if the U.S. continues its growth in production, it's going to saturate its own transport system, and it's going to be an export power, and it's going to be, to a certain extent, in competition with Canada to export oil. And at that point, the price at which we can produce versus what the U.S. can produce becomes an issue. And so there could very well be a window in which the oil sands are in play that could taper off over time. So time is of the essence. We won't immediately, we can't lay down pipeline in seconds. It's going to take some time, but we'll benefit. But we won't. We do have a window.
Okay, Doctor, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Interesting report. Dr. Kenneth Green, Senior Director of Natural Resource Studies at the Fraser Institute. He joined us live from Calgary.